The recent nuclear deal with Iran has stoked passions across the political spectrum, and the issue is very complicated even more by the fact that 4 Americans are still detained in Iran. Jason Rezaian is a Washington Post reporter who you've probably heard a lot about. He is accused of espionage. He is now facing a secret trial. Amir Hekmati is a former U.S. Marine, also held in Iran since 2011, accused of spying. Saeed Abedini is a Christian pastor, held in Iran since 2012, and Robert Levinson is a former FBI agent who vanished in Iran in 2007. He is officially listed as missing, not detained. Let's talk about those Americans and the Iranian nuclear deal with Democratic Congressman Dan Kildee of Michigan. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it very much. I do want to talk specifically about Amir Hekmati, who lives in your district. His family are constituents of yours. First, I want your take on this deal. The 60-day review period for you and your peers in Congress has begun. We saw very spirited debate on the Hill today in the Senate chamber between Secretary Kerry and some senators. Do you support this deal?
Well, I'm still evaluating it. I am generally positive toward this approach. I supported the negotiation. We'll go through each step and take the 60 days that we have to evaluate it. But I'm generally supportive, mainly because I don't see what the other alternatives are. But I'll continue to evaluate the deal and come to a final decision after doing a complete review. But the question that members of Congress have to ask themselves is, not only is this a good deal, but is this a good deal as compared to what the path forward looks like if we reject it? And that's just a fact that we have to deal with, and I think it's the reality that members should keep in mind.
You have a unique position in that, as I said, Amir Hekmati, one of your constituents, has been detained in Iran since 2011. His family are still your constituents. You're in touch with them. That complicates things. Did you think, why would the United States agree to this without those 4 Americans coming home, or did you view it as separate issues?
Well, I would have preferred that we insist on their release before initiating negotiation. I was very concerned that we not include the Americans as a part of the negotiation for 2 reasons. One, we wouldn't want to tie their fate to the success or failure of this diplomatic effort. After all, even though we have an agreement, it's not clear that we're going to move forward with it, not until Congress acts. So we could have tied these Americans to an agreement that may not come to pass, and that would have been a terrible result. But I think even more importantly, we would never want to be in a position of entering into a transaction with Iran where we would trade the freedom of American citizens for something that would presumably make the world a less safe place. After all, in negotiation, we would have had to have given something in order to get their freedom in return. And even Amir Hekmati, my own constituent, who sits in an Iranian prison, has said he wouldn't want that to be the case.
But it sounds like what you're saying is that you wouldn't have even entered into these talks until those 4 Americans were released. Did you tell the President, Secretary Kerry, that?
We've been speaking out for about 2.5 years, and of course, we got into these negotiations, not long thereafter, so that ship had sort of sailed. But we made it clear that before we engaged, we really should have had their release.
President Obama has been asked multiple times about these Americans in the wake of making this deal with Iran, and I want you to listen to what he said in response to a question from a reporter from CBS about how they could make this deal while those 4 Americans are still detained in Iran. Let's roll the President's answer.
The notion that I'm content as I celebrate with American citizens languishing in Iranian jails? Major, that's nonsense. And you should know better. I've met with the families of some of those folks. Nobody's content.
Well, first of all, I think the President has been pressing this from the very beginning. I've spoken to him about it many times. So I'm satisfied that he believes this is a very high priority and continues to press on it. But if you're a family member, nothing is enough. And so when I speak to Amir's family, obviously they would want the President and all of his administration to do everything they could every day.
Do you believe that this agreement will help those 4 Americans come home?
I think it may. One thing I can say, and this is maybe a better way for me to put it, had this agreement not come together, I'd hate to think what the fate of those might be. So in that context, it gives us a chance to get them home that we otherwise might not have had.
Congressman, thank you very much. I wish all the best to Amir Hekmati and his family.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Nice to have you on the program.
Thanks.
We'll be right back.